Hello, folks. The topic for today is going to be balancing work and having a social life. Originally, I really thought that balancing work and having a social life really depended on the type of personality you had. So, let's say you're an extrovert. Since you're more outgoing, that means that you're going to be more willing to meet with your peeps and on the weekends, etc. And for those who are introverted, that doesn't mean that you weren't gonna socialize with your folks, but that just meant that you were gonna be reluctant or low key to yourself. Initially, that's what I thought. But once I started doing some deep thinking, I realized that if you combine all the occupations in the world, you can really place them into three different categories. And these three categories that I will be describing, that these millions and millions of jobs that are out there in the world will determine if the job you have will determine if you will have a social life. So, again, three categories, and I plan on starting with category one. So, for category one, is for the high paying jobs that don't offer much of a social life. What are these type of jobs? These are your physicians, your neurosurgeons, your lawyers, your your CEO, basically the individuals that have spent a lot of years in school, and they spend a lot of years in school because they're real passionate about the occupation that they were going to be pursuing. If you spend all these years in school, you gotta be, it has to be ingrained in your heart that you're doing it for a reason, and that reason is because you love it. You love it so much that you're willing to sacrifice not having much of a social life. And so, category one are for people who make very good money but sacrifice not having much of a social life. That doesn't mean they don't have a social life, but what you were pursuing meant that you were going to sacrifice not having much of a social life because you were going to be working, working, working to um to make the money for you and your family. The list of occupations that I gave are, again, your lawyers, your doctors, your neurosurgeons, your pharmacists, anything that moves big money is for category one. Category two is for those occupations that pay good money but allow flexibility in their schedule to have a social life. What are these occupations? To me, these occupations are your entrepreneurs, your investors, your realtors, your real estate agents. These people aren't as passionate as those individuals from the jobs that I described in category one. Actually, I take that back. They are passionate, but they're passionate about the lifestyle that comes with having these type of jobs. So it's like we don't mind having these jobs. And the reason why is because these jobs offer us a lifestyle that we want and give us good money. Maybe not the money that's on the doctors, the lawyers. It give us good money and we're able to do what we want. Or when you look at realtors and real estate agents, they're not constantly on the clock. They sell one house or two homes and they're good. They're able to attend events. They're able to be with their families, ex- travel, etc. Even investors, you're not constantly on the schedule like the individuals from the occupations from category one. And you have category three. Category three is for your average Joes, your those individuals that work your 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. So these are for the occupations from category three are for those of the middle class, low middle class, I would say. So these type of individuals, again, they work and they come home. So you would assume that these individuals would have a social life outside of work. Just because you work and come home doesn't mean you have a social life. So these individuals that work these 9 to 5, and they can have a social life, but that doesn't mean they will, because to have a social life, you gotta have a certain amount of income coming in for you to be able to go out on the weekend, go to this birthday bash, or whatever that you want to do. So these individuals, the 9 to 5 that they work isn't enough for them to balance that work social life balance. So what they do is, because again, to have a social life, you got to be able to rake a certain amount. And the people from this third category, they need to have extra means of income. So think of a cake. If a cake is the main means of making money, the cream on top of that cake would be the extra methods, the extra streams of income that these people would need to have a social life. I would say are stressed about finding multiple streams of income, because these streams of income will enable them to have a social life. So again, category 1, we make a lot of money, or we went to school for all these years. We have this doctor this to our name. Having a social life, I don't mind not having a social life. If I do, I do. If I don't, because my whole life was spent going to school and working all these hours. Category 2 is for those that I don't want to work all these hours, but I want to make good money. So a form of risk is applied. That's where the entrepreneur, your realtors, you gotta apply some form of risk to be able to have that flexibility in your schedule. How many houses are you willing to sell this month? For those that are investors, how much are you willing to put in a stock for you to live that lifestyle that you want? Category 3 is for low middle class individuals, but that doesn't mean they will forever stay in that bracket. It just means now you got to work a whole lot harder compared to those from the first 2 categories. How far are you willing to go to be able to turn up with some friends on the weekend? The category 3 people, they're not trying to live extravagant lifestyles, but to just be able to go out on a regular weekend basis. You gotta have multiple streams of income, because that 9 to 5 is not gonna be able to complement you doing what you're doing on a weekly basis. And that sums it up. Because to balance work and have a social life, more factors play in the equation. It's not just whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It's not whether you're outgoing or not outgoing. It really determines what job you have that are in these 3 categories. I may be wrong, but to me, after some analysis, that's what I've come up with.